What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video, and today it's the team selection preview series for Game Week 11. I'm going to go through my team, how it did in Game Week 10, a little bit better than the previous few weeks, but that wasn't difficult. And then taking a look at how the team is shaping up for this week, including captaincy, any potential transfer options and things like that. Before we jump into it, did want to say that this video has kindly been sponsored by the guys at OneFootball. If you want to download it, it's completely free of charge. You can click the link in the description below or just search for OneFootball on Android stores or iOS stores. Loads of football news, live scores and stuff, which is really handy as an FPL manager. When you're out and about at the weekend, you want to see who scored you some points. So it's completely free. Give it a go. See what it's like. Android, iOS. Click the link in the description or just search for it on the store. So Game Week 10 went a little bit better than previous weeks. In Game Week 8, I scored 37 points. Game Week 9, 25 points. So I actually beat both those scores combined this week with 66. So not really a season-defining moment. It wasn't massively above the average or massively above kind of other people on Twitter, YouTube, etc. But it was a decent, solid week. It got me a green arrow. I was just inside the top 500k. Now I'm just outside the top 300k. So a really good rank boost. And one I'm kind of okay with at this point in the season. There's obviously a lot of points to play for, and you can see just how quickly people are dropping in a number of weeks. It just means you can get up the ranks as well in just a couple of weeks by getting a few good scores. So really happy, 551 points overall. It was basically a game of defenders did nothing, attackers did everything. Not one of my attackers blanked. Obviously, Salah had quite a few chances. Did look a bit rusty, I thought, but came through with the penalty. De Bruyne had that assist, which could have been a goal. I still haven't seen a good angle, which shows it was definitely David Silva's, but I'm not going to argue about it either way. Mount and Abraham both chipping in with assists in the Chelsea game. Chelsea again scoring a load of goals, 4 in total against Burnley. Can't defend, but can definitely score goals. Yarmolenko I thought looked really good against Sheffield United and should have come away with a bigger score than that. There was at least one ball where he put over the top. Cresswell probably should have just shot first time when he didn't. And generally he was kind of, for a lot of the game at least, he was the most advanced attacker. So I'm really happy with Yarmolenko. We'll have to see whether I hold him with the fixtures he got coming up. It was nice to get a captaincy goal. Sterling coming through with the 3 bonus as well, so 22 points in total. And Morpay was my transfer in the end last week. So I did Pukki to Morpay and Son to De Bruyne, which I'd spoken about a lot. So Morpay not really involved that much in the game, didn't have too many shots either. Expected goals and stuff was quite low, which is a bit of a shame, but still came away with a penalty. And you could say it was a tough Everton game. Maybe Brighton shouldn't have come away with the win in the end with VAR and all that stuff, but we won't go into that in this video. But it looks good considering he's playing Norwich at home next week and they're shipping loads of chances. So hopefully he can get another good score, maybe even hit double figures. Defence was poor. I made the mistake of switching Tomori and Soyuncu on the bench late on before the deadline. So Tomori came on for Otamendi, and now obviously he's a concern. And Soyuncu was locked on the bench with 6 points. So I missed out on 5 points, but it's not the end of the world. Diop with nothing, yellow card. Trent with nothing and a yellow card. But on another day, maybe Trent comes away with an assist or 2 with the amount of balls that he was putting into the box. And Pope, bit frustrating. I know people have asked me whether I'm going to swap the goalkeeper, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But just not getting the save points or the clean sheets at the moment, so it is a bit of a worry. So we'll see how he gets on in the next few weeks and then go from there, I think. So looking at defenders and goalkeepers first, in terms of my team, I got 1 free transfer this week, 101.1 million squad value and 0.7 million in the bank, which I got basically from doing Pukki to Morpay, and I only used a small amount of that budget to get Son in. So a little bit of money in the bank. In terms of Pope, I think he has been a bit frustrating in terms of the amount of points he's got. Would have hoped for maybe some more save points, the old clean sheet here or there, which hasn't really come through. I'm not hugely worried about it, but it probably does have 3 to 4 game weeks now to prove that he can get those points in the easier games, of which Burnley do have a pretty nice run of fixtures now for at least the next 4 game weeks, especially from a defensive point of view. So Sheffield United up next, for example. Yes, it's an away game, but going forward, I don't think Sheffield United are all that. I think if they're going to stay in the Premier League, it's more likely to be the amount of goals they don't concede, whereas the goals they do score. Obviously, they need to score goals to win matches. Everybody knows that, but they're doing pretty well defensively and don't necessarily need to score a huge amount of goals to win games. So I don't expect that to change against Burnley. I think that could be a tight game. And Pope could get some points there. In 4 weeks' time, maybe I'll look at even bringing in someone like Henderson at Sheffield United. But for now, he stays. In defence, I'm a kind of a sucker for punishment, so I'm thinking about playing Diop again. Soyuncu and Tomori are on my bench. They both have away games this week. But it is Newcastle. They've only had 15 shots in the box in the last 4 game weeks. They're down the bottom out of all teams in the league, not very attacking at all. So I'm thinking if West Ham can get a clean sheet, surely this is the week. So I might play him again at home. We'll see. I could play Tomori or Soyuncu, but I think I'm going to go for Diop. Otamendi is a little bit of a worry. Southampton at home should be a good fixture. Potential for a clean sheet there, of course, for Man City. The question is, will he play? So this is going to go out on Tuesday. We won't have seen the midweek League Cup games by the time this goes out. If he plays in the League Cup, then he's gone for me. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to play in the league as well. And I do think with Fernandinho suspended, he's going to get a rest in the League Cup game. And he's probably almost certainly going to play in the Southampton game, which means there's only one spot next to him and it could be Stones. So if I get rid of Otamendi, because I've already got Soyuncu, I'm not really looking at Chilwell. Obviously, he had a monster score against Southampton, so he's a bit more being looked at by people now. So I'm looking at maybe elsewhere. So you could go to Cancelo or Mendy. Cancelo started the last 3 games for Man City. After Southampton at home, the fixtures aren't amazing, although there are away games, I think, at Burnley and Newcastle, so they're pretty decent anyway for clean sheet potential. But I might even go to the other team in Manchester, Man United. Their fixtures are pretty good. Defensive stats are quite good. Yes, they've not got as many clean sheets as we'd hope, but with the fixtures they got coming up, I'm expecting that to change. So I'm maybe looking at Maguire, potential goal threat. I think he's had 5 shots in the box over the last 4 weeks. Or Wan-Bissaka, who's going to be good for bonus points as he was last year. So one between those two is what I'm looking at. Cancelo is a bit of maybe a punt because we don't know if he's going to 100% stay in the team. But again, if he doesn't play in the League Cup, if we see Walker and someone else start at left back, maybe Angelino even, then we'd expect Cancelo and Mendy to play full-back in the game against Southampton. So it would be pretty tempting to go for them. But I think Otamendi will go if he plays midweek. So that's the transfer that I'm looking at doing. Not looking at taking a hit this week, just that one transfer. And Trent's probably going to stay. Yes, he's right up there in defenders. Maybe not got as many points as we'd hope. Liverpool haven't kept as many clean sheets as we definitely hoped for. But they've got good fixtures coming up, and I can see the clean sheets coming. They've only had kind of 2 or 3 so far in 10 games. I would expect that to increase quite a bit over the next 10 games because I just think the amount of clean sheets they had last year, I don't see them keeping that many less this year, which means they've got a lot to come over the next kind of 30 game weeks or whatever it is, 28 game weeks. So I do think there's some coming. They've got some easier fixtures. Attacking potential is there still. So although he's only on 43 points, which is 5 points behind Pereira and 4 behind Lundstrom, I reckon over the next kind of 8 to 10 weeks he'll be top of the pile along with Robertson and will prove his value. And compared to midfielders around the same price, he's doing better than most as well. So I'm not too concerned. Once the clean sheets come through, then he'll definitely get on the ranks in terms of points. So looking at midfielders next, 5 is what I am playing. So I'm playing a 3-5-2. Yarmolenko's in there right now. I think Newcastle at home is a perfectly fine game to keep him for. After that, we'll have to see. I do like him as a player, but West Ham's fixtures do tighten up a little bit. Obviously, around that price point, I've not got a huge amount of money to spend. There's the likes of Daniel James. Man United have got good fixtures right now. I think he's looked pretty good this season. Martial back is really going to help as well. Harvey Barnes potentially at Leicester. He's got a good few minutes over the last kind of 3 to 4 weeks. And Leicester are in really good form as well. And I've got a bit of a soft spot for Harvey Barnes. That's obviously not a good reason for you guys to bring him in, but it is for me. And then you've got Iwobi at Everton maybe, but I'm still not sure about that Everton team, whether I really want any of their players right now. So we'll see how they get on. But Yarmolenko, I think he's been in good form since he's played for West Ham. And like I said earlier on, he was kind of the furthest player forward for a lot of the game. So one I want to keep an eye on. If he smashes it against Newcastle, I'll probably just look to keep him, even though the fixtures toughen up a little bit. Salah is maybe a little bit more of a concern than he was. Obviously, he had that ankle injury which kept him out of the Man United game. He went off towards the end of the Spurs game because of it. Klopp has said it's not that bad, but I do wonder if it's playing on his mind a little bit, and how long is it going to take for him to fully shake it off. So I don't want to use a transfer when it's Aston Villa away next, but I have to keep an eye on him, maybe go to Mane at some point. Which I've obviously spoken about a lot, so I'm not going to speak any more about that right now. But there was a few times in that Spurs game where I thought a different Salah on another day, an informed Salah maybe, makes a couple of those balls that came in over the top, plays the right shot and just gets a few more points. So really nice that he came away with the penalty, but ultimately I think he could have had more in that Spurs game. Sterling, De Bruyne, don't really need to talk about. I'm definitely keeping him for the Southampton game. Fixtures do toughen up a little bit for Man City. Obviously, the thing with Man City is we expect them to put away every team they come across and by a good few amount of goals as well. So I'm probably going to look to keep them. But in terms of captaincy, I might not be looking to captain Man City players as much as I have been. So this is definitely a week where I'm going to captain one of them. I think Sterling did the business last week. Not to say that De Bruyne can't do it, but I just think Sterling's more likely to get in the box, shoots more in the box, etc. I've said this plenty of times. So he'll definitely be my captain this week, unless there's any reason I think that he's not going to start. But I think he'll get probably rested in the League Cup. That's what I'm hoping for. And then be fit and ready to go for Southampton. So he'll be my captain. Mount is obviously an interesting one. A lot of people went for Hudson-Odoi. I looked at that as well. And then he didn't play and Pulisic played. The beauty about Mount is, Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi are fighting for the same spot. No one, although there are players fighting for Mount's spot, of course, it looks like he's got it completely nailed at the moment. He's going to start pretty much every single game. So I'm really happy with him. I think Chelsea are scoring so many goals. I need two of their attackers. And until I can be sure about Pulisic and Hudson-Odoi, who's going to start week in, week out, then I think you've got to stick with Mount. Willian is an option as well. He looks to have the other flank kind of nailed down at the moment. He can be a bit hit or miss. I've had him in before. I've bought him in when I think he's looked good. And then he's completely gone off the boil, so maybe that's something you want to consider. But he could be a different option, but I think Mount is the number one right now in midfield for Chelsea. And lastly, we put the forwards in. Like I've already said, Morpay is in. Really happy that he's got Norwich at home. One of the reasons I bought him in, of course. Interestingly enough, I saw that Rashford and Martial had about 9 shots in the box between them against Norwich. Now, you might expect that it's Norwich, it's Man United, etc. But when you look earlier in the season, those two weren't having that many shots in the box. Maybe it's the formation they play. Maybe they're just in form. Feeling good that Martial is back, but I think a lot of that comes down to the fact they played Norwich. So although Morpay against Everton didn't necessarily look that good from kind of underlying stats perspective, I expect that to change against Norwich. Hopefully he'll get a bunch of shots there and put a couple of them away and come out with a double figure haul. And then Abraham, I mean, he's only got 2 attacking returns in the last 5, which isn't great, but this is the thing I'm kind of telling myself now. Which cheap forwards are doing the business? Wilson's just blanked like 2 or 3 games in a row. Jimenez blanks against Newcastle, got Arsenal away next. Pukki, obviously, we know is just awful right now. So for me, I'm kind of just holding my forwards. At some point, I might probably get rid of Morpay because the fixtures stiffen up a bit for Brighton. Got Man United away and then Leicester at home, which maybe isn't ideal after Norwich. But realistically, the cheap strikers are not kind of blowing teams away. They're not scoring every single week, a bit like Jimenez did last season, when he kind of got goals or assists all over the place. So I think you kind of have to stick. I think Pukki is probably done. But Abraham, two attacking returns in the last 5 is probably okay, especially if you're using a strategy where you're still playing, putting most of your money in midfield. If you want to switch it to attack, if you want to get the likes of Vardy in, obviously that's a great option. And then maybe that's the way you get money up front. Vardy, Rashford could be good options and maybe score more points than these cheaper options around the kind of 7.5 million mark. But for me, I want to keep Sterling, De Bruyne and Salah in midfield for now. Maybe that will change over the coming weeks, we'll see. And I do, it's very hard to look past the likes of Vardy when he's just scored a massive hat-trick in a 9-0 game. Obviously, 9-0 games don't happen that often. I'm not expecting them to do that against Crystal Palace away. But Vardy is now the top scoring FPL player, and I think he will be consistent over the course of the season. And that's not really a completely out there call. He's always been consistent ever since he kind of came into the Leicester team in the Premier League, kind of a almost 20 goal a season man. So I'm expecting more points from him. But just for my particular team, I've spoken about this quite a lot. I do think he's a great option, but it's very hard for me to get Vardy in because of my team value and structure. I would have to get rid of De Bruyne, Sterling or Salah, which I'm just not prepared to do at the moment. When I am, maybe we'll think about bringing him in. But the short version of that long story is, I think cheap forwards are doing okay. They're not, blowing the FPL points out of the water or anything like that. I think you've just got to stick by them and hope the points will come and just keep your money in midfield if that's the strategy that you're going for. So that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like. Much appreciated as always. Subscribe if you're new around here and hit that bell so you're notified for all future videos and live streams as well, so you don't miss out on any of that. As I said at the start of the video, this video is sponsored by OneFootball, completely free in the Android and iOS stores. Just search OneFootball or click the link in the description below. They take you right through it. It's completely free. You can give it a go and see what you think. Otherwise, I'll leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll catch you next time tomorrow for the preview.